I don't know if I can do this. There's just so many of you. Why are there so many of you? And you're all looking at me. Why are you looking at me? What are you looking at? Is it my shirt? Is it my hair? Oh no. What if it was my breath? Did I brush this morning? Oh my gosh, Mackenzie's looking right at me. I bet she can smell it from here. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't breathe. I can't breathe. In 2016, anxiety was one of the most common mental illnesses in America. Roughly 18% of the nation's population had some form of anxiety. Today, I'm going to be telling you more on anxiety and the panic attacks that come with them. More specifically, what they are, what causes them, and the treatments that are available for them. In our brains, we have two things called an amygdala and a hippocampus. And the central part of the amygdala is where emotional memories are stored. And the hippocampus encodes threatening events into memories. Both are thought to play a role in anxiety attacks. So let me repeat myself. Threatening events. Our brains perceives anxiety as a threatening event. According to the Anxiety and Depression Association of America, a panic attack is described as the abrupt onset of intense fear or discomfort that reaches its peak within minutes. An attack can include at least 4 of the following symptoms: an accelerated heart rate, sweating, trembling and shaking, shortness of breath, smothering, feeling like you're choking, chest pain, nausea, lightheadedness and dizziness, chills and being overheated, numbness, and the most common effect, the fear of losing control. These are only 15 possible side effects that could happen during an attack, and it's only the beginning. Panic attack symptoms are very common to those with heart disease, thyroid problems, breathing disorders, and many other serious issues. Because of the similarities, many people who suffer from anxiety go to the doctor thinking that they have a life-threatening issue, even though this isn't the case, because anxiety is treatable. But we'll touch on that later. Many people do have doubts about anxiety. They argue that we're making it up for attention or it's just nervousness. But anxiety is much more than this. And though it can include being nervous, what really sets it apart is how it occurs. It can happen during stressful events, along with no reason at all. Anxiety is very different because of how unpredictable it can be. So now that we have some background information on what exactly a panic attack is, we're going to discuss what causes them. According to the Social Anxiety Institute, the exact cause of a panic attack still isn't fully understood. But we do know that one isn't just born with anxiety. It is learned and developed throughout the duration of your life. You teach yourself what and how to be afraid of something. However, some studies have shown that family history, abnormalities in the brain like chemical imbalances, substance abuse, and major life stress are factors that can contribute to them. So, one question that is normally asked about anxiety is, what triggers a person? What sets them off into their fit of panic? And honestly, I don't have an answer for you. Anxiety is like a thumbprint. It's different and unique for its beholder. However, some people do have a certain area that sets them off. For example, public speaking, or even seemingly simple tasks like driving. I've personally dealt with anxiety since the 8th grade, and I can't tell you everything that sets it off for me. It can range from a number of things to being overheated in a crowded gym, overthinking small things to the point where they become doomsday ideas, and a lot of the time it doesn't have a reason, which in my opinion is the worst reason. It's pretty frustrating when you feel like you can't breathe, but you don't have an explanation for it. So now that you've heard my little sob story, I should also mention that other mental illnesses are normally attributed with panic attacks. These can include obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as OCD, bipolar disorder, depression, which is the #1 cause, and schizophrenia, along with many more. So now it's time for the prying question. How do you treat anxiety? Well, according to Mayo Clinic, generalized anxiety is treated in 2 possible ways: medication and therapy. There's normally a mixture of both and a trial and error period where you figure out what works best for you and what doesn't really suit you. But what if you're unmedicated or don't want to be medicated or for some reason are unable to be medicated? This may sound surprising, but 30% of people with anxiety go untreated, myself included. So how do we get by? What do we do for our own treatments? Well, a lot of the time we have breathing techniques or different exercises that help us through it. Something that I found that works best for me is a technique called grounding. Grounding is the identification of the objects around you that helps stimulate your 5 senses. For example, when I'm having a panic attack, I identify 5 things I can touch, 4 I can see, 3 I can hear, 2 I can smell, and 1 I can taste. I know this may sound a little silly, but it helps remind me that I am in control and there's nothing to worry about. Other ways to naturally reduce anxiety and stress is exercise. When you exercise, dopamine is released into your brain. For those of you who don't know what dopamine is a neurotransmitter, or more simply a chemical in your brain that gives you the feeling of happiness, pleasure, and a sense of reward. Other ways to naturally reduce anxiety and stress is to cut back on caffeine, because caffeine raises your heart rate. Also, focusing on what's happening in the moment, having a positive attitude, reaching out and talking to people about what you're going through, and meditation are all factors that have helped anxiety, and they're all unmedicated. So in summary, we learned about the generalization of an anxiety attack and the symptoms, causes, and treatments available for them. So the next time you see someone freaking out, you know that there's more to the story. Let's help create a positive, caring, and compassionate community for our very own 18%. Thank you.